Hey fam, it's your boy Pop Pop. I'm sorry I don't have puppies and clowns and kittens and balloons on my channel. But the real deal is that while everybody else is blasting you with smoke and mirrors, bread and circuses they used to call it, while the world goes to hell in a handbasket, I try and keep my channel real about what's going on. I try and help people. I try to help people to the uttermost. The uttermost is to be concerned about your soul salvation. We spend a very brief moment of time on earth, and the rest of it is eternity. And so, that being said, God said in the last days there would be a deception. And it said that evil men and women would grow worse and worse. And it certainly has been. And things which used to be considered evil are being touted as virtues now. And that's a subject that I want to get on, is strongholds. God said in his word that in the latter days he would send strong delusion. And I believe that part of that strong delusion is being able to do whatever you want, whether it's right or wrong or sinful or not. People people are virtuous now, it seems, only when it's convenient. A man will tell his girlfriend, we'll get married someday, but in order to show me that you love me, I want you to have sex with me. And then when the girl says, well, at least wear a condom, and the man says, no, honey, I'm your man. You wouldn't ask your man to do that. Why ask me to wear a condom when I'm your guy? And then the girl falls for it and she gets pregnant. And the man loses his desire while she's pregnant, goes off to another woman, and leaves the girl high and dry. A lot of times these men act like little boys. They borrow the baby mama's car, so she has to take a bus to work. They call their house a crib. They don't pull their pants up. They don't get a job. You know, they don't do anything to support the baby if the lady has it. And there are a lot of great women now that are raising babies as single mothers. And there are a lot of people my age, grandparents, that are raising another generation of children when we thought that we would have time off for good behavior and not have to go through the whole thing again. So, like I said, God says in his last days, he'll send strong delusion, and people are out marching in the street having pride in something that years ago you you wouldn't want anybody to know that you were involved in. The shame of it. And now people are just like, oh, well, it's an alternate lifestyle. And they sell it to little children as, you know, uh, Johnny's got two daddies and they hold hands and kiss, but the child doesn't understand what's really going on in the bedroom behind closed doors, that the one man is using his mouth as a sewer to please the other man, and the other man is tanking the other guy up the toot. I'm sorry for being so graphic, but that's the way it is. It's not love at all, it's lust. and it's based on a hunger that occurs when a, a young person is overcompensated by their mother, and the father's kind of absentee or aloof. I know I'm going to get a lot of trollograms about this, but in any case, it used to be called a mental condition. And believe me, I've got my own issues that I deal with, my own strongholds, because I have a bad background of my parents were into idolatry. My mother had statues of Horus and Bast, Ra, the Egyptian sun god, the Egyptian god Anubis, the god of death and Hades. She had a statue of the mother child reunion, which is a statue of Mary on the TV set. She used to light a candle as if lighting a candle made any difference. The reason that they sell candles in, especially in third world countries, is it's a way of getting the last nickel and dime away from poor people who feel that they're obligated to buy a candle and keep a candle lit all day and night to a statue, you know, and their prayers go up before God in the candle and they pray to Mary. And none of that stuff is scriptural. I was raised in the Catholic Church. None of that stuff is in the Bible. We were given a mass book, and the priest was supposed to show you the way. You know, we had statues that you're supposed to pray to. You're supposed to go and kneel and kiss the priest's ring. You know, it says in the word, call no man reverend, because that sidesteps God's title. And there's an A word for it. I forget. In any case, being the better part of a century old, I forget the word. But in any case, maybe it's the word abrogates. Maybe that's it. But in any case, you're not supposed to call a man father unless he really is your father. You're not supposed to call a man reverend. Vicar of Christ, the Pope title, is absolute blasphemy, because he's saying that he's Christ on earth. And believe me, he has to go to the bathroom just like you and me. And he has to wipe himself just like you and me, not to be crude. But the man is not God. And people fawn over him and all of this other stuff. And he's got just as many human faults as the next guy. And nobody dares mention it. When my mother was buried, my mother walked out of the Catholic Church in 1973 because she bought the lie that a baby was a clump of cells that could be scraped out of a woman like seeds out of a pumpkin. She walked out of the Catholic Church in 1973, and when she came back, she was in a box in 1981, and we drove up to the church, and my family paid for the funeral, and the priest was outside in a little black skirt with a green Isaac Lacoste sports shirt on. He wasn't even fully dressed for the funeral and the occasion, smoking a cigarette. He didn't even get her name right during the funeral. The whole thing was a sham. My brother, we were pallbearers. My brother looked at me and laughed like he was out of his mind. You know, he just couldn't handle the whole situation. I thought I was going to have to slap him to, to get him to behave himself during my mother's funeral. Whole thing was a circus. I was living on the street at the time by myself, and I had street friends. And one of the street friends was a prostitute named Kathy. Very beautiful girl. We were involved as friends. We weren't involved as prostitute and client. She was a friend. She looked like the girlfriend of Andy Griffith off of the Andy of Mayberry show. She looked like Helen Crump, almost exactly, except she had red hair, glasses. She carried herself very seriously. She cared about me. I was in the back of the limo crying about my mother, whom I didn't get to see because my nutty sister said if anyone visited my mother, well, she'll think she's dying and she needs to be left alone. And so my sister kept everybody away from my mother. So I never got to see my mother. I never got to say goodbye or to have any final words with my mother. And it's always been a rub with me, with my sister, who always has to stick her goody two shoes nose into everything. I'm sorry. And she messes stuff up. And then she says, well, I just tried and I meant good and everybody just is so mean. And I tried. That kind of garbage. You know, if you can't control your own life, keep your nose out other people's business. But in any case, that's a strong delusion that God has sent in this current generation, is that people are allowed to do what seems right in their own mind. And they really don't care if it does hurt somebody or offend somebody else. And they literally are fascists about it now, that if you go to say anything about it, you're considered a hater, hater. So, like I said, being the better part of a century old, I've seen this country go literally down into the toilet. People sleeping with animals, having animals up in your bed and licking you on the mouth. For you people that say that an animal is clean, do this for me. Let your dogs lick a clean slide and then put that slide under a microscope. You'll see all kinds of wiggly jigglies walking around and crawling around and squirming around. Parasites and germs and bacteria, all kinds of stuff. And then these people will get sick later on, or they'll let the dog. I've seen video after video where somebody will bring home a new little baby and they'll say to the dog, here's your brother or here's your sister. No, that thing isn't your baby's brother or sister. The baby is a baby, a dog is a dog. And back in my day, you used to keep the animals outside. You made a doghouse for them. And if the weather was really bad, you let them in, kind of kept an eye on them so they didn't crap all over everything. My parents had a cat, and my father put down this really expensive carpet. And when the cat got elderly, it simply went behind the sofa and used my father's very expensive carpet as a toilet, so much so that it ruined the hardwood floor that was underneath the carpet. The floor had been piddled on so many times. it was stained up and it had to be stripped when the house was sold. And I watched that cat hop up on my father's lap, and my father would groom it and pet it, kiss it. But for his own son, oh no, he couldn't show, he couldn't show, you know, love at the time. He was a dry well. And you have to be very careful speaking about the dead, because if you don't tell the truth, you can bring a curse on yourself. When I was 11 years old, my father punched me in the face and knocked me down the stairs and came down and stood over top of me and beat me like we were in a bar fight. When I was 11, my sister cornered me in the kitchen and held a knife to my belly like she was going to gut me like a fish, because she had given my mother $20 for rent, and my mother very foolishly turned and gave the money to me, an 11-year-old child. And of course, what's a child going to do? Child's going to say, cha-ching, windfall. And that made such a hatred for me from my sister that our entire life she's reminded me of that $20 that I owe her. But yet, by the same token, when my mother was sick, I went out and I bought the most expensive portable color TV that you could buy, top of the line Zenith, in a TV cart. It was $368, which back in 1981 would have been probably like spending $600 or $700 in today's money. And so when my mother died, my father did want the TV for whatever reason. He sold it to my sister and brother-in-law for $50, when really the polite thing to do when somebody gives a gift like that and you don't want it, you give it back to the gifter. So the TV should have come back to me, but my sister got a $368 TV, brand new, for $50. They don't give me credit for that, not a word. But in any case, again, circling back, as Jen Psaki would say, to my point, is as long as you have a stronghold in your life, of which I still do, I still fight the demons every day in prayer. And the Apostle Paul asked the Lord, can't you take this away from me? And God said, my grace is sufficient for you. Because see, sickness and pain and all of that other stuff, struggle and strife, has kept me close to the side of God, to the heart of God, longing for that day of deliverance when Jesus said he'll come back for his own. And see, that happens in what's called the rapture. And if you're not there, if you're not looking and yearning, you're going to miss it. And these evil people that say that a stronghold of evil should actually be something to be proud of and celebrated, they are literally putting your soul in jeopardy. God says another thing. He says he hates hands that shed innocent blood. He gave us sentience where we know that we're human. He gave us speech, and he gave us the privilege of being able to procreate. And what do we do with it? We go out and we have a fling, and then when somebody gets pregnant, they want to scrape the baby out of they want to have somebody scrape the baby out of their belly like seeds out of a pumpkin. Oh well, no hurt, no foul. And then another lying religion says that since there's only a limited amount of souls in the universe, that soul, once it's been scraped out of the mother's womb, will catch the next bus, so to speak, when the woman gets pregnant again. Nothing could be the furthest from the truth, because the word says, I knew you while you were yet in your mother's belly, in the womb, is what God said about each and every one of us. We're all different, just like grains of sand on the beach, different, like every snowflake that ever comes down is different. So, fam, don't buy into the lie. For those that have bought into it, give them grace and mercy. Be merciful to them as you would have God be merciful to you. Don't get in a shouting match with somebody who's making a mistake. Abortion, like I said, is not something to be celebrated. It's a tragedy. We were lied to. We were told that it would never be used for birth control. And that's what the majority of abortions are being used for, is birth control. I don't have a problem with somebody who goes into a clinic, and I don't think anybody should yell at a young girl and show her pictures of cut up babies and yell at her, telling her she's going to go to hell on top of everything else that she's suffering through. Believe me, she knows. She gave her heart to a man who won't support her. She's been told by her family, don't come back with a baby into this house. She has to keep her job so that her boyfriend can keep riding around in her car and spending her hard-earned money like a little boy asking for an allowance, a little boy that can't pull his pants up. So in any case, fam, like I said, I'm sorry I don't have puppies, clowns, kittens, and balloons. It's all about trying to help you, and it's all about trying to make it to the finish with your soul salvation intact.